Everyone's talking about the S26 Ultra like it's a clear win, but after using it for 2 weeks, I don't think that's the full story. And to be clear, this is a good phone, but that's exactly why this is weird. Because Samsung marketed one phone and built something slightly different. And over the past 15 days, I kept noticing things that sit right in between those two. Things almost nobody is talking about. So in this video, I've got 15 things across 5 sections, and by the end, you'll see exactly what I mean. Let's get into it. Before we get into everything, there are 3 things you need to know first, and they actually matter more than you'd expect. First, the design, and I'll be honest here, the S24 Ultra had one of the best designs Samsung ever made. That boxy, note-inspired look felt like peak Ultra. But here's the twist, I actually like what Samsung replaced it with. The S26 Ultra is noticeably more comfortable to hold, with rounded corners, softer edges, and a much better grip overall. And that camera island, it's aggressive, and people notice it instantly. Second, that camera island looks great, but it's also the most fragile part of the phone. We've already seen drop tests where a single hit causes damage directly to that module, and on a phone this expensive, that's genuinely concerning. Third, there are still no MagSafe style magnets, and that's because Samsung is trying to balance 3 things at once: the S Pen, reverse wireless charging, and magnets. Now here's the part that actually surprised me. I've been using the ESR case on this phone since day 1, and it basically solves all 3 of those issues in one go. You get AirGuard corners for drop protection without adding bulk, built-in magnets for full MagSafe compatibility, and a raised metal camera guard that protects the module and even doubles as a kickstand. It also has raised edges for the display and up to 16 feet of drop protection, and if you want something even stronger, they go up to 23 feet. Different styles, different colors. Link is in the description. Now next, and this should have been a much bigger deal, the way this phone was marketed. Before launch, Samsung told creators that the S26 Ultra had a 10-bit display, and naturally, a lot of videos went up calling it exactly that.
This is the first time on a Samsung phone that we're getting a proper 10-bit panel.
S26 Ultra for the first time supports 10-bit color processing, so it should be able to display more precise.
S26 models now get the upgraded 10-bit display.
But once the phone actually shipped, it's not actually 10-bit. It's basically a trick to simulate it. And it didn't stop there. The storage was also promoted as UFS 4.1, faster and more efficient, but when you look at the benchmarks, it's still performing like UFS 4.0. Samsung has since quietly confirmed that as well. Now here's the thing, you probably won't notice this, but that's not really the point. The real issue is how it was communicated, because Samsung used creators to push specs that weren't fully accurate, and if that goes unchecked, it sets a bad precedent moving forward. But this is where things get really interesting. The idea of an agentic AI smartphone, a phone that doesn't just respond, but actually takes action for you. Samsung built this whole thing around AI, and on paper, it sounds great. But here's the problem. When I first got the S26 Ultra, that feature wasn't even available. And when it finally did arrive, Pixel 10 devices got it at the exact same time, on a phone that starts at $600. Now the feature itself is genuinely useful, and I do think it has real potential. But if the same experience exists on a phone that costs half as much, then Samsung needs a better answer than that. Because right now, it doesn't have one. Here's the one that's been almost completely buried, and this is where things get uncomfortable. Because the real issue isn't what happens when privacy mode is on, it's what happens when it's off. Even if you never use this feature, your display is already worse. To make this work, Samsung had to change how the pixels are built. Instead of one clean structure, you now have 2, one for normal viewing and one built to block angles. That's clever, but here's the catch. Those pixel curtains, they're always there. Which means half your display now has worse viewing angles, not just in privacy mode, but in normal use. And that's the real trade-off. You're giving up display quality all the time for a feature you'll barely use. Now, here's what Samsung quietly changed, and this one surprised me. The S25 Ultra had the best anti-reflective coating on any smartphone, not by a small margin, and it made a real difference in direct sunlight. But to support this new pixel structure, Samsung had to change that coating, and now it's worse. It's still better than most phones, But compared to the S25 Ultra, it's a downgrade, and it's the kind of downgrade you'll never see on a spec sheet. Samsung took something that was genuinely best in class and quietly scaled it back. And honestly, that bothers me more than any titanium versus aluminum debate. If you want to fix it, your only real option is a good anti-reflective glass protector. That's what I've been using, and the difference is obvious. Now here's how this actually plays out in real life. You've seen the demos, you know the pitch. At around a 45-degree angle, the screen goes fully private. But to actually make it private, you have to use maximum mode, and when you do, the display takes a hit. Contrast drops, colors look washed out, and the whole screen starts to feel gray. It's not something you'll keep turned on all day, so you switch to normal mode, which looks better, but now it's not really private anymore. It's just slightly harder to read from the side. There is one place where this feature actually makes sense, and that's condition mode. You can set it for specific apps, banking, messages, passwords, and it turns on automatically when you need it. But even that comes with a small trade-off. If you're used to glancing at notifications from a distance, you'll now have to pick up your phone every time. So, in the end, the best way to use this feature is to set it for the right apps and forget it exists. Because outside of that, it just doesn't hold up in real life. The AI photo editing actually works, and I've enjoyed spending my time changing outfits, removing objects, and most of the time, the results are surprisingly clean. But that's not the feature Samsung really pushed. The real focus was Now Nudge. This idea that your phone understands your context and gives you what you need before you even ask. So on day one, I turned it on, and I tested it properly. I had people send messages that should have triggered it, and I put myself in situations where contextual AI should have naturally kicked in. And even when someone asked me about my routine on a specific day, it didn't mention that there was a birthday in my calendar that day. It does work sometimes, but those moments are the exception, not the rule. Most of the time, nothing happens. You're expecting the phone to think ahead of you, and it just doesn't. And there's a reason for it. This is running on-device AI instead of cloud, which means the model is way smaller than full-scale large language models. That's great for privacy, but it's simply not powerful enough for the kind of contextual reasoning Samsung showed in their demos. In controlled environments with scripted inputs, it works. In real life, it's a promise that hasn't shipped. On paper, the S26 Ultra has the same camera hardware as the S25 Ultra, same sensors, same megapixels. But in real use, two things are clearly better. First, low light performance. Because of the wider apertures, the camera pulls in significantly more light and the difference is obvious. Photos and videos in darker environments are noticeably cleaner compared to the S25 Ultra at the same settings. Second, the natural depth of field. Even without portrait mode, you can take a quick shot and get that soft background blur. And that actually looks like it came from a professional camera. Now, let's talk about APV, because this is genuinely impressive. This is Samsung's version of ProRes. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. I'm using the 512GB variant, and this is how much 8K APV footage I can record. And yeah, that's the limitation right there. You can shoot directly to an external SSD. But now you're carrying extra hardware, which kind of defeats the point of shooting on a phone. Samsung presented APV as if it's a feature for everyone. In reality, this is for people who already understand what a LUT is, already own external storage, and are intentionally shooting mobile video. For most people, shooting in regular log without APV is the smarter move. You still get the benefits without destroying your storage in minutes. Now moving on to charging. The jump from 45 to 60 watts is real. You can go from 0 to around 80% in about 30 minutes, which actually changes how you use the phone in the morning. And even compared to Chinese phones pushing 100 watts or more, Samsung's optimization means real-world charging speeds are surprisingly similar. Because at the end of the day, wattage is marketing. Optimization is what actually counts. But here's the detail Samsung doesn't clearly tell you. If you already own their 65-watt multi-device charger, it won't give you the full 60 watts. It caps at 45. To get full speed, you need Samsung's specific super-fast charging 3.0 adapter. Not a deal breaker, but this should be clearly communicated. What actually surprised me more is the wireless charging. Qi 2.2 is genuinely fast, and even though there are still no built-in magnets, most people are using cases anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I've been using wireless charging constantly, at home, at my desk, and even in the car, and it's fast enough that you actually start relying on it instead of plugging in. And then there's the audio eraser. Samsung had this before, but it only worked on videos you recorded yourself. Now it works system-wide: Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, anything. In real time, it's clearly not perfect, especially with heavy music, but for dialogue or noisy environments, it solves a real daily problem that no other phone is addressing. And that matters more than most AI features on this phone. And Samsung barely talked about it at all. Let's start with the one thing Samsung keeps ignoring. The S26 Ultra has 4 rear cameras, and 3 of them are genuinely excellent. And then there's the 3x telephoto. It's still using a 10-megapixel sensor that hasn't changed since the S22 Ultra. When you're shooting video and zooming between lenses, the 3x becomes the weakest link. The transitions feel inconsistent because you're jumping between a 50-megapixel system and a 10-megapixel one. It's the one obvious gap in an otherwise very complete setup. And while brands like Xiaomi and Vivo are refreshing sensors every year, Samsung keeps ignoring this one and getting away with it. Now here's something almost nobody is talking about, and it actually changes how you use the camera. The 5x telephoto is no longer a periscope lens. Before, light would enter the phone, bounce through a prism, and travel horizontally. This year, they switched to a new ALOP design, a straight path lens inside the camera island. The benefit is better stabilization and a wider aperture, which means more light. But there's a trade-off. The minimum focus distance is longer. So if you try to shoot something up close at 5 times, the camera can't lock focus, and you physically have to move further back. Now speaking of cameras, Samsung added a 24-megapixel mode this year, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense. 250 megapixels are overkill for most people, while 24 megapixels is a perfect middle ground between detail and file size. But there's one issue. Every time you close and reopen the camera, it resets back to 12 megapixels. That's software that clearly wasn't ready, and it gets frustrating fast. And finally, the S Pen. Samsung moved it to the curved corner, which means there's now a correct way and a wrong way to insert it. If you slide it in backwards, which happens naturally, it doesn't sit flush. It sticks out slightly, creating a small ledge that's easy to press accidentally, causing the pen to pop out. The old design handled that perfectly. This one doesn't. Samsung prioritized design over usability, and that shows up every single day. So here's the honest take after 2 weeks. The S26 Ultra is a genuinely good phone. Battery life is better. Even without a bigger battery, the 60-watt charging isn't just a spec bump. You actually feel the difference every morning. The cameras are better where it actually matters. The build feels more comfortable than the S24 Ultra ever did. And One UI 8.5 is still the most feature-complete Android experience you can get. 7 years of updates and a level of customization that no other smartphone comes close to. But here's the part that stands out. The phone Samsung built is better than the phone they marketed. And after spending 2 weeks actively looking for what's wrong with it, that's actually worth saying. Now, if you already have the S25 Ultra or even the S24 Ultra, this isn't a must upgrade. But anything older than that, yeah, this is an easy recommendation. And if you made it this far, you probably care about the details. So hit that like button. This is Techtics, and I will see you soon.